Here we are once again, folks. Once again, Orwell, Arizona. It is Thursday. What's the date today? What is it today? I know what day it is today for me. But what is it for the rest of you folks? It is the 6th, October. Wow. Okay, so once again, as a reminder, this is an everyday post for myself, advocating for myself as a combat veteran to get the policies and procedures through the VA to work for me, not against me, but to work for me. That's what's causing my problem these days. Okay, and you know, it's some of it is understandable. Okay, because I will start off with explaining a little bit about the beginning of my situation and how I got into this rut in the first place. Okay, it's completely understandable, but after a moment, after a I can't use the word moment, but after a little while, after a few days, maybe after I don't know the time frame. I'm not the time monitor, but after a little bit, things should start to get in line, right? They usually it takes a little time for something to catch on, and then things start to flow as they need be. Right? That's the way things work. It's a natural thing. So let's see. So all this is I have to think it through and explain a little bit. All right. So just so you guys get an understanding and you guys can refer to this post. All right, because it would be this is an important part of why I'm in the rut that I am, but I shouldn't be. Okay, so as a combat veteran, all right, 2009 and 10, all right, I toured Iraq. Okay, so I sustained three injuries, or four injuries that I would like to point out that they were the worst injuries that I had sustained. Okay, now when uh, when someone, and this is anyone, this is you, this is me, this is anybody. All right, when somebody sustains an injury, all right, when somebody gets injured, usually it's a self assessment. Okay, usually you're like, hey, oh well, I think I'm okay. It's sort of one of those things until it actually really starts to hurt. Right? That's a normal kind of thing we all go through. Right? Some people more than others are very particular about getting a bump on their knee and getting a bruise and they complain immediately. They want to benefit from whatever it is that they're in, as far as their job, you know, however they feel like they need to be more aware of being injured on the job, right? You got those folks. You got all sorts of kinds of folks, right? Well, let me tell you what kind of folk I am. All right, I'm going to explain to you what kind of folk I am. I'm the type of folk, and I'll bring it to the most current. And this is the way I've been since I can remember. And I can't remember much anymore, but it being hardwired in me, I kind of got a sense of how who I am. And so I do recall some of the stuff as when I was young, as far as getting injured. You know, for one, growing up in a very poor family is enough to cause any person to be tough as nails. And I say that because, when you're growing up very poor, you don't have, your typical idealistic, oh, if you get hurt, we have a place to go. We can go to the hospital and check it out. We have insurance, the family, I'm talking about poor. All right. You need to toughen it up. When you get injured in a poor family, you toughen up. Okay. There are no options to go to a hospital. I grew up that way. Okay. And a lot of people grow up that way. All right. So that helps me to explain, and you guys can get my situation of where I'm headed here. All right. I've always been that way. That to me is not anything defiant. It is a natural behavior I have because of the way I was brought up. But well, I brought up myself basically. So we didn't have insurance. We didn't have, I grew up in the projects. The ghetto basically, the projects. So is government assistance, and there I didn't know anything about. I wasn't educated as a kid to know that we had some sort of option in case we got hurt as kids. As kids we were all out there playing. Remember that? I'm 54 years old. We were all out there playing. Yep. Times are different, right? But with us, we were out there playing. So I've gotten injured. I can't even remember how many times. I'm sure it was more than enough times that I can remember. But I grow up with that sort of attitude and that disposition. So moving on, that didn't go anywhere. I would still reluctantly, with every job, I wouldn't put too much effort into health insurance because, it was something I just wasn't accustomed to having. So I grew up tough guy. All right. I got injured, tough it out. All right. And that's how it was. So the latest thing was when I was in basic training, I fractured both my tibia. Tibia is right below your knees. That's the bone that fans out before it gets to your knee. Okay, so I fractured both of them during basic training. Okay, just because I was in my older years, I was in my 30s when I joined the military. Okay, so my body was not used to carrying 100 pounds on my back jumping out of a truck. Who was? Okay. Now in my teens, I probably would have survived that. I don't know. I was always a thin kind of fella, but I do know that carrying 60 to 100 pounds rucking because they want you to carry as much pounds as possible when you're rucking in basic training. So jumping out of a truck, the back of a truck to do some drills, you know, learn how to do this, learn how to do that. I fractured both of my tibia. Okay, it took about a day for it to manifestate. Right, like, ooh, what is this? Then I learned I couldn't put it together. Like, what the hell? How did I get this? Well, of course, I'm thinking, oh, when I jump, oh, I see, right? That's how it happens, folks. Sometimes it's not immediate. So I fractured both tibia. It was so terrible. I was literally grabbing from bunk to bunk. My bunk couldn't be further away from the damn latrine. I tell you, this stuff seems like it's all planned out. I know. I got the worst luck, man. I was way at the end. I was the last one away from the latrine. Okay, and when the fractures, they called it a mild tibia fracture. It was no damn mild tibia fracture. Okay, this was a fractured both tibia, and man, I tell you, uh, as soon as I was off my legs, it would just throb. And when I had to get up in the middle of the morning, 1, 2, 3 o'clock, if we weren't woken up, by our drill sergeant, I was struggling and struggling, man. I thought, damn, you know, this can't be no mild tibia. Shit. I know pain. I grew up with it, like I said. So I had to literally try to hold myself up while every single bunk, and how many were there? There was at least 25 bunks just to get to the latrine. And then I, somehow make it in there and urinate, come back, do the same thing over and over. Well, that was just the beginning. Then as I complained, I went to the medical doctors, and they put me on a profile, right? But that didn't stop the drill sergeant from saying you still need to be involved. So I struggled through not doing what everybody else was doing, but I needed to do something. So I still was exercising. I was still doing things out there, and it says do not run. And so the only person that really knows what's going on is yourself. You know what you can handle and what you can't handle. Well, I had to rough through it, do some stuff. So at the end, when it was time to graduate, okay, graduate from basic training, you have to complete everything and pass everything in order to graduate from basic training, or you get recycled. Right? Recycle meaning that they start you over and you do it again because you didn't meet the minimum requirements to pass, to go on. So, man, I tell you, it was shortly after that I thought I am going to get recycled. There's no way I can pass my 2 mile run in the time that I'm supposed to at my age and move on and graduate. So I was released off profile because they gave me a chance to tough it out. I said, "Yeah, I'll do it. I'll give it a shot. And if I don't, well then, at least you guys gave me the opportunity to give it a shot. You didn't say no, you can't do it because you're on profile." Boom! I started to run. You guys, man, that alone is something that is hardwired into my brain. I'm telling you, I'll never forget that. It was the roughest, toughest. I mean, every single movement, pounding, boom, boom, on both tibias. I couldn't run any faster than my body was allowing me to because of the pain. So at the end, uh, we all go and check our numbers after everything was done. They gave us an opportunity to check our results. They posted it um, in our unit, and I thought I had failed. So I was looking at it, and I didn't understand something about the way it was being graded, and I thought I had failed just to run. Everything else I passed. I mean, her, yeah. So I remember telling a few of the soldiers, say, "Hey, man, I don't think I made it. I'm gonna have to get reset." I was bummed, and so then one fellow went up and said, "No, no, no, you passed." And I said, "No, no, it says here." So he showed me, and I was reading the wrong number, and I passed by the skin of my teeth. Okay, the skin of my teeth. Oh my lord! Also, there's no explaining how relieved I was on that. So I did it. I ran with two fractured tibias to move on to the next phase of my training in the military. And I did. And that, my folks, is who I am. A lot of folks like that, but I grew up that way. Okay, I grew up with, not going to the doctor ever for anything because we didn't have the resources to do it. So it wasn't in our norm to do it, right? So I passed with two fractured tibias and moved on. A tibia must that tibia thing, and thank the Lord that my rest of my training didn't. Um, it didn't require that I pass a physical test. It just required that I pass my schooling, right? So we still ran, and I was still running with fractured tibia. And I was telling you, man, I was sure my legs were going to crack off my body, but I had enough downtime during the day, and I just stayed down all day, studied, and then moved on, and then did their group run, and so I carry that, folks. I carry that along with me. So in my tour, when I toured, I wanted to tour to Iraq. Right, I wanted to get the experience, so that way I moved on. I had a career plan in mind, and I needed the combat experience. So I toured, and I rose my hand. I elected to tour with a different company that I was trained to do. I was an engineer, and I went with transportation unit. Okay, now God bless all these transportation nuts. Okay, some of them are okay, and a good portion of them are just, I tell you, I shouldn't even say anything bad about them. Okay, but I could say they're a bunch of idiots. All right, now I ain't any better, but that's not what I got in the military for. All right, and so I had to deal with going to a unit and transitioning into a unit just to deploy to get the experience, and then transition back when I got out so I can continue my career in the military. Okay. Now, the bad thing about it was that um, the unit I got into previously, initially to join the military engineers, I could, I was with my people. I was with my troops. We all sort of had this engineer mindset, but as soon as I went to a transportation unit, I was not liked at all. Okay, when I got into the military, I was older, so being in the military older, a lot of higher up supervisors, soldiers did not like me being in the military while I was older. I inspired some people. I even inspired my engineer teacher to rejoin. He was much older. He was older than me. I inspired him. But in this unit that I toured with, I didn't make any friends. Okay. I tried, but I just wasn't in my place. I just need the experience. I wanted to move on. I had a big problem with the higher up. There are a bunch of morons. The police officers, police officers are granted certain privileges when they join the military. They're union based. They get to immediately go into, and I'm not saying all of them, but a good portion of the time they get into leadership roles, and they're a bunch of morons. Okay, because it doesn't give the opportunity to somebody like myself who was running a business, okay, running a business, under, I completely understood how to manage people, fire, hire, do all that, pay people. I was more than experienced to lead, but I was put at the bottom of the barrel, even when I had a security clearance which I transferred with to this department, and they did not acknowledge my security clearance. They didn't give me any sort of benefit for having a security clearance. They kept me at the bottom. And you know that's completely wrong. The military paid for it. I need to use my security clearance, however it may be in any unit. Well, my captain, right, Captain Judd, he was an idiot. Okay, I can say that. He was such a moron. Um, I know if I was out of the military, I probably would have got along with him much better. But in the service, he was such an idiot. He just went along to get along with everybody else. I tell you, these folks, man. I tell you, folks. If if it isn't black and white to these folks in this unit, then it didn't exist. It didn't happen, and it's not real. That's how narrow minded it is. Was in that unit, in that company. So I try to not get in trouble and keeping to myself because man, I tell you, I would have killed somebody. Literally, I would have choked the shit out of somebody. Just for being an idiot. Okay. So I didn't get along, and higher up was really, really not liking me to be there. And they just couldn't understand that I was just there for the experience of the tour, and then they could have moved on with their own shit. But they gave me a hard time. They tested me 4 times. I mentioned before in another post to urinate because the stupidity of it. To urinate because to drop hot to see if I was taking drugs, alcohol, that kind of stuff. 4 times, maybe more than 4 times. Okay. I even had soldiers tell me nobody likes you. And to me, I thought, am I am I in elementary? What's going on here? Just the weirdest shit going on. And I thought, oh, sorry. I sometimes I get complacent of where I was. So I started raising my hand to do stuff that I knew my unit, my company was not going to help me out with. Like, for instance, electronic warfare. I took that and I had a security clearance already to do it. So when I begged to do something other than turn a wheel, um, they didn't like that. I was raising my hand. Well, they gave it to me anyways, and then they were going to do have somebody call me to do background check and give me a security clearance. I had a secret security clearance already from my basic training. Right when I got out of my basic training, went to school and got my secret clearance. Not easy to get, folks. Okay, I was dealing with stuff that allowed me to get a secret clearance. So these idiots wanted me to go through the process of getting the secret clearance. Enough said right there. That was how I was being treated in the company that I was in. All right. So shame on them. And now I'm in a pickle where I can't depend on my company to do anything for me. Right? They already dropped the ball on losing my medical workers from, I believe, Iraq, Kuwait, medical records kept in the conics, whatever, to the States. My medical workers were lost. So I tried to deal with the higher up, my supervisor, my leadership, right when I got back. This is important part, folks. This is where you need to pay attention. This is where I need most people to understand so they can help me forward this video to somebody who's going to take this into account and say, completely understand that. And this is what's going on. Okay. Remember, don't forget my disposition. I'm a tough son of a bitch. I ran and passed my PT test in basic training with two fractured tibias. Okay. I should have taken the advice of um, my what do you call it, the recruiter, and went straight up special forces immediately. I was going to do that after I did my tour and went back to my unit. That's where they needed the most help, and I figured I can do so. That's a whole nother story. But so when I got back, I was having the manifestation of my head injuries, which was one here on the side and one on top. The one on top, I have a picture of it being a huge bump with a little sore on top, bleeding, because a soldier thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. I passed out on that one. Okay. Again, folks, why should I report it if I can get up and walk away? Right? That's not that's not how people win wars. Right? Not a big deal. I was having some problems, but with one of the injuries, the one to the side here that I received, I also injured my back. And the back injury uh, overshadowed anything that I was feeling up top in my head. It overshadowed any pain, any weird, anything that was going on. The back injury was terrible. Again, folks, I graduated with two fractured tibias in basic training. Not partial tibia, not oh well, yeah, I had a back injury, I got no, two fractured tibias. And so, I went through the process, people. I went through the process of thinking, immediately I thought, I didn't really I had some records of me complaining that I had a back injury and that I hit my head, but not a big deal. But the back was killing me, and so my immediate leadership, they would send me to some sort of remote, on mission during mission, some remote building hospital, little tiny hut that I had to go get ibuprofen, and all they would say, these doctors, was, "Hey, if it gets any worse, make sure you contact and follow the protocol and whatever." And I was like, yeah, 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 just let's move on. So I was doing the best I can to document some of this stuff, but I was more interested in my mission. Okay, if I was able to think and move around, that was okay for me. All right. So as I was going through that, I mean, these buildings, people, I'm telling you, I would go and there would be, I remember going to one because I was needing some ibuprofen for my back. And I told my leash, hey, I need to go get some ibuprofen. My back's killing me. Okay, go ahead. I went to this and it was, sandy and blowing wind. And I remember trying to find this place and people were, oh, it's over there. And I remember walking in the middle of nowhere. I thought I was walking off base. Like, holy shit, where am I? And I couldn't see anything. And then all of a sudden, it's just like the movies. Bam, there it was. Yep, a building. I thought, this ain't a building. This is like a mud hut. Went in there, did the same thing, left. So as I continued through my tour, it was a few months that I had sustained these injuries already. I was having some problems with feeling weak. My legs were weak, but it wasn't as though I wasn't able to walk and do stuff. Also passed the PT test while in that position. Again, folks, remember, my company did not enjoy me being old and being there, so I didn't have any leverage whatsoever, and so everything was difficult for me. Right. So we moved on. We started to what they call it, demobilize, which is, you settle down, you get all your stuff together, we're ready to go out. We're training another company to take our place. When that started to happen, I really started to feel as though something was terribly wrong. Okay, that was I just thought, man, there's something not right about these injuries, and I think a big portion of it was my head injuries. It was making me feel sort of like I was getting a cold all the time, like I had this cold that wasn't going away, but it wasn't like bothering. My back was bothering me. Right, it was just radiating. Oh, I have sciatic pain and all this stuff. I didn't know. And doctors didn't give a shit. They just thought, hey, if you can walk in here, you can walk out of here. You know. So I moved on with it. We do mobilize. We went to Indiana to assess. We do like a self assessment. So in the self assessment, they want you to point out all the stuff that has happened to you. If it's really bothering you, to take care of it then, because the army, I was in the army, is giving you opportunity to take care of it. But you had to stay there and resolve it completely before you go home. Well, everybody around me was going home, right? And I thought, no, 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 I got to get the hell out of here, especially when I'm not, getting along with everybody here. I don't want to be here anymore. I just wanted to come home, see my family. And I was, I elected, and they gave me this option there at demobilization to take care of my injuries when I went home. So when they asked me, hey, you got a back injury? Oh, yeah, yeah, I had this back, but I don't know, and I didn't know what to say. I didn't, I felt like, I didn't want to lie, but then I felt like I didn't want to, start anything to keep me there for months and months or whatever the time would have been. I just thought, well, hey, I got here, I can get out of here. So I thought, yeah, can I just take this and deal with it at home? Sure, they said. Just make sure that you go to the hospital and, you document it. And so, okay. So, all right. So I went home. Right. I went home. And I thought, cool, I can take care of it at the house. So when I got home, guess what I needed? This is important, folks. Guess what I needed? I needed a job. That's right. I needed a job. So there was a job for a border mission, Operation Copper Cactus, and it turned into different names as the time went on because it would end and start and end and start and end and start. And and so I figured, how am I going to get in this job if I'm injured? And so, lucky me, things work for a reason, folks. I was finally starting to get some luck, I felt. Well, I elected to get my injuries done at home. And so I didn't expand on any of the problems I thought I really, really, really needed to take care of. I just thought, oh, yeah, I can, it's probably not that big of a deal. I'll take care of it at home. So, document wise, it was there before I joined this job, which was a Title 32 job in Arizona on the border, and it was very vague about my injuries. So I did mention it, and since they needed a lot of folks, I said, "Hey, yeah, I have this injury, but it's just something I can take care of." And since it wasn't, this, warning, Sergeant De Leon's hat, I was able to get by with just advocating for myself and saying, "Hey, look, I have these, but if it gets worse," and they said, "If it gets worse, let us know, please. We're allowing you to get on this job." Okay, boom, got on. Right. As this was happening, I was having problems with weakness in my legs still. I thought it was a sciatic nerve issue, and this brain stuff, I was still feeling like I had a cold, right? But it wasn't doing anything. So I figured I'd get over it at some point, right? So I moved on, joined, and the job was tough. Okay, climbing up and down hills with 60 to 80 pounds of rucking. Some of the positions were a little easier, and 24-hour shifts. And so I was struggling. As I got onto the job, my injuries started to manifestate, and they started to get worse. Okay, because of the aggravation, the weight, the time being spent up 24 hours, moving around. I didn't have time to relax. So I did the best I can to manage my injuries until I really couldn't take it anymore, and it was mainly my back injury. But it seemed to go together. Like if my back injury got worse, then my cold seemed to get worse. Like I had this cold, like it seemed to have gotten worse, and I thought, man, I got to get this back thing situated. So I told my higher up on the job, Title 32, that I need to go see a doctor. I said, okay. They said, okay, go see it. So I went and saw it, went through the whole process of getting physical therapy, getting a couple epidural shots. Didn't address the head thing because I didn't think that was an issue. Started doing it, started getting epidural shots. Nothing changed. I still felt like I had a head cold. My back, it just was not working. So the doctor here, the surgeon, decided to do back surgery. He said, "Yeah, this ain't working for you, bro. We're gonna have to do back surgery called a lumbar laminectomy. That's the least we can do as far as invasive." Okay, so I elected to do it. Had some problems with the people I was working with as far as them documenting it. They just didn't do it, and that was just my luck again, folks. Again, I was the guy who ran 2 mile run in a time I needed to with two fractured tibia. Okay, in basic training. So these people didn't, it almost seems like they didn't want, this bad luck was following me around. I don't know why. Okay. But I needed to work, and I was there working like everybody else. It seems like everybody wants to be this dynamic leader in the military. Oh no, I'm the leader. And then the ones that don't know how to be a leader, it's terrible. There's quite no vetting, especially in a company you go into, if they lack vetting, the proper leadership. It's terrible. Okay, but you learn to deal with it, and that's part of being in the service. So I got the surgery, and as soon as I got the surgery, I started to have a drop foot on my left side. When I got home, it was dropping. It wasn't bad, but it was like it wasn't working. I wasn't able to, it was like jerking, trying to stay up and things. So I thought, it's got to be the surgery, obviously, right? So moved on, and it wasn't getting any better. It was getting worse. The drop foot started to get worse. I didn't know what to do, and I thought, man, I really need this job. So I just stuck to it, and I said, look, I told my higher up, I really need to be on profile. I'm having trouble with my back. I just need I need some downtime. So it was shortly after that. And so I did. I got on a profile, went into the office about half the time of my mission with the border mission, half the time. Okay. I was in an office doing office work because of my back surgery, and they had confused. This Operation Copper Cactus. They had a problem with trying to figure out um, how to deal with putting me on convalescent pay and all this. It was just a mess, right? So then I was trying to get my unit at the same time immediately to start documenting that I have this combat injury of a back injury and a possible head injury. And I said, well, they said, well, let's put it down. I was trying to contact my higher up in my company. At the same time, I was down for this convalescent leave. this on this pay for being in the office. And I just, it just, I was having such a problem because the unit was, there were such dum dums. I wouldn't get any communication back from them. Oh, we lost your records. Oh, I mean, it was just a complete. Again, the company did not enjoy my presence there because I was older. So, um, anything I had to complain about, I wasn't joining the regular duties for being on duty there. I was working on the mission, and they didn't like that either. And so, I wasn't getting the help I needed. So I kept complaining and complaining and complaining. Oh my God. And so the mission ended in 212. I joined 2910, ended in 212. So I figured, well, I'm out of a job. What am I going to do? I can't work. I got this back thing. At that time, the weakness started to cross over to my right leg. I was having a problem bending the leg, and I was thinking, man, I really need a second look at this back. I just thought it was the back. So I went to the same surgeon. The surgeon said, well, let's send you back to physical therapy and let's see if that helps out. So I was going through that. The mission had ended in 212. And I thought, man, I got to get this medical straight. So I started to, complain to the VA that, hey, I have these combat injuries. I didn't exactly note it when I got back, but I was told that I could still deal with it when I wanted to take care of it at home. So it's starting to manifestate. Can I get this situated, right? And so I started going to the VA, and that took some time. Doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor. And that's where the important part comes in. At some point, people, at some point, okay, at some time, when you're having such a severe, right, a severe disability present itself as far as it being motor function, at some point, where is the cutoff where someone says, a doctor says, whoa, whoa now. At one point, what point is it? Right? It's not like, oh, we think you're lying. Oh, no, there's hardly any document, but, and everything was so negative. And I'm getting blue in the face, complaining and complaining and complaining. I mean, I went to, these people aren't in Congress anymore, but Ron Barber and John McCain and the Scorpion Queen and everyone. I was complaining to everyone about, hey, like I have this situation that's going to be a mess, and my unit's not helping me, my company, and I'm having this problem with, losing motor function, and I don't know what's going on. I was at that time, I was I was scared. Okay, I was scared. I didn't know. I had never experienced any motor dysfunction before. And I figured, I did. I thought maybe I was having a stroke by all the damn mental anguish that I was going through at that time at the beginning by complaining and not getting the assistance I need. Wrote letters, wrote forms, did all sorts of stuff. Okay, so I was having some mental anguish then, and I thought I had a stroke. So, at what point, people? I'm asking you. At what point does it turn into whoa? Hey, now wait a minute. What's the story? What's your story? Right? Are you following me? At what point does it turn into hey? Stop vamping. Let's figure your situation out. At what point does someone say, whoa, man, you're losing function? Hold on a second, time out. Where does it start? considering my situation, it's not like I got back from a tour and I took off to some place where I injured myself on job. I went from job to job in the service. Okay, then when I started to complain about having these combat injuries, even my company at the time was disagreeing with me. And these are these young idiots that are there thinking that they're going to be some sort of leader in the service. They're a bunch of morons. Okay. Again, I was just there to move on so I can continue with my career when I got home. I didn't want to deal with these numb nuts. Okay. So at what point in this complaining, in severe, it's a severe prognosis of me losing function of my body parts, severe. At what point does it turn into, hey, now hold on a second, we're going down, we need to pause this whole thing here. At what point did it need to do that? Well, it didn't happen. People were brushing it off. Doctors at the VA were brushing it off as though, well, I just don't know what it is. Can you believe it? I mean, you're losing fucking motor function of your body parts. And I don't know where, at what point, how far it was when I was dealing with the VA, but it was severe where they just brushed it off and said, well, I don't know. And I started to suspect because when I first started to have doctors at the VA say, well, oh yeah, it could be, the surgery that was causing it. I give them that margin of error. I do. I give them the margin of error. And so, but again, at what point does it not become a margin of error? It becomes more of a critical prognosis. It becomes a critical state of, this is serious. If you are having a stroke, you need to check. Oh man, right? So, no one, not one doctor at that time, 2010, 2011, 12, not one doctor, not one, that I've been complaining. I had Congress call. I have all sorts of things going on. Did they forward my serious situation, medical situation, to somebody or some organization or something that was going to say, well, hey, we need to put you in this process because you are losing motor function. This isn't not a serious. This is a very serious situation you're in, Sergeant DeLeon. What happened? I haven't even had one person ask me what happened. Hey, what happened? What initially, like somebody say, hey, what happened to you? Oh my God, let me check you out. Not one. It had to become, I had to sit there for a while they kept telling me to move my leg, which after a while stopped working completely. Move your leg. And then we get into the story and also what happened? It'd be just like some flyby question. So I knew in here that there was a narrative going on with my situation. Something was wrong, even in the beginning. Like, wait a minute. I'm sitting in the hall. I'm just giving you being facetious. I'm sitting in the hall, raising my hand, thinking, "Hey, I'm losing motor function. Does anybody give a shit? Am I supposed to be in some sort of process? At what point does somebody say that's a very critical situation? Let's follow through with setting you up for this, and if that don't work, this, and let's get this straight. Let's get this situated for your health and your wellness and your aggravation and your anguish. I know it's bothering you, and you shouldn't have to be going through this. Let's figure it out, man." At what point? You guys tell me. At what point does it get rid of the speculation of, oh, he's a fraud. He's trying to fraud the VA. At what point does it get rid of the speculation that I'm trying to cheat the system? At what point, when I'm having this dysfunction, this motor dysfunction, and now, and let's forward to now, 2022. From 2010, when I got back, 2009, 10 to 22, I've been dealing with this. You guys have no idea the shit that I've been through with people that have said, yeah, we'll take care of this. No, we can't take, you're an anomaly. Hey, you know what? I had set up appointments and hey, let's do this. Hey, let's do that. And let's go. And there, but it was all in disregard. All these things that were going on with me to figure out what was going on was a disregard because there was a narrative going on in my medical records the SOP at the VA that I was a fraud. What else would it be? Would it be just because people are lackadaisical? And they're like, yeah, you know, he's got some, he's got some motor function stuff. And, yeah, it's no big deal. Which I've gotten. Trust me, I've been through that too. Is that what's going on? Because that's a bunch of bullshit. How does some one person go through having motor dysfunction 85 to 90% of their body. And people are medically lackadaisical about the process in which it needs to be figured out instead of being diagnosed as an anomaly. I have a story. I was in tour. I injured myself. I got myself sort of into a little bit of a pickle with administrative thing, but it could have been sorted out in the beginning if somebody would have took the initiative to just follow through with their fucking job. Because I was doing my job, right? I was taking advantage of every single thing the military had to offer me. I was sacrificing. You know, I didn't want to be with this company. I wanted to do this. I needed to acquire that in order to go over here. I was ready to move forward, folks. I was on a roll. And then that shit happened, right? So, as all this was happening, right, I was being disregarded, medically neglected. SOPs were not being administered properly to me. In the background, time was passing. The time was passing where I wasn't able to file. I was losing motor function, lost my legs already. So that's life or limb. So I lost limb. So life or limb, I'm able to claim insurance, right? The life or limb policy for losing life or limb for insurance for injury. Well, that time had lapsed over. So then I get a whiff of like, hey, you should probably try to, just people. You should probably try to apply for the thing and see if what happens. And I'm like, what thing? What are you talking about? Right? There was no sit me down and explain to me what's going on. There was no medically manage my situation and this is what's going to happen. So we need to put you on a fast track to do A, B, and C because these things will expire. Or look, this is going to happen. So we need to make an exception for your situation. What we're trying to do is this and that. There was nothing. There was no plan. I was medically mismanaged. And at that point, I wasn't even managed. There was no management whatsoever. There wasn't one. I was in with the Purple Heart, the Order of Purple Heart, because I had to fight everything, folks, that I had got into from the beginning of being here with the injuries. I fought to get into the Order of Purple Heart. I had to fight to get into that program. The AW2 program here, I had to fight to get into there. I was being denied everything. And I would get so pissed off when people would say, well, I understand you have, lack of motor function, but you're not, in my records, it shows here that you're not eligible for the program. When I'm fucking losing motor function and they can see it. So the anguish was deep. The anguish was scar deep now. Okay. So now at 2022, I have learned that the powers that be are responsible. Okay. I don't deal with peons anymore. I don't deal with nurses. I don't deal with, healthcare this, healthcare that. No, I'm dealing with the people at the top now because those are the people responsible. Okay. If they got even a whiff of my situation, or if there was some sort of documentation and I'm still being ignored medically, there's a liability there. There is accountability. My situation has turned into a little bit of a mess, but that does not negate the process into which I could just fall into. They could throw me in and say, "Look, yeah, there's a little bit of a mess here, and that's okay, but we're definitely sorting that out. Your health is more important than any policy and process. Let's follow through with that. You're a combat veteran. You sustained injury while you're in combat. Let's get this situated. Let's move you forward. Next, right? That simple. But nope, it's not that simple. So I am complaining. I am crying for the assistance. And at my stage at this time, present right now, I am being shoved under the rug. So I don't get to a certain point where I get the attention I need for people fucking up my case. That's what's going on, people. All right. Why isn't it being dealt with? Do you think that being labeled as an anomaly still negates my health care? You think that even if, let's say I'm just this dumb son of a bitch who is sitting back saying, yeah, they're saying I'm an anomaly, I'm just going to accept it. Do you think that being in that position still disallows me to get medical help for having a problem with a severe motor dysfunction? No, I should still be getting the care no matter what, right? But that's not my situation. My situation is these are combat injuries that I sustained during combat. Okay. I've been complaining about it since 2010, 11 when I got back, and it's 2022. And I've had enough. I cannot pour my heart out anymore to address this situation. I'm not giving up. I just can't pour my heart out anymore. It's worthless. I have to start over every time I see a new doctor. So what's going on with you? So, how are you today? Oh, so you can't move your legs? People, the authority to help me has abandoned me. This is no joke. The authority to push me forward, to accept even an evaluation with like, hey, you're not an anomaly, Sergeant De Leon. What the fuck? Who told you you're an anomaly? You're having a motor dysfunction, and just because it's unique doesn't mean that you're not having it. And so this is what we're going to do, right? So, with I have gotten so much advice from even the people at the Order of Purple Heart not to do this, not to do that, because it's going to get denied. Don't do this, don't do that. So I followed everything everybody was telling me. You can see the record. So it wasn't as though I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to go. I don't, and I'm complaining about it now because I didn't do anything about it to fight back. No, everything's documented. that I've been complaining here, complaining here, complaining here, complaining here. And that's my whole point. When, at what point does it become for the authorities of my medical management to say, this soldier has been complaining since 2010, 9, 10, 11. At what point does it end? And it says, that's a freaking serious disability you got there, son. We're going to sort this shit out right now. At what point does the VA take accountability for an action that's part of the policy and just say, whoa, this has not been applied to you? No. And then it's like my fault. Well, why not? Didn't you go to and you know, I'm telling you, people, the mental anguish that I had to put up with. Not to disclude my family, my poor wife, you know. Anger. I mean, I hadn't even dealt with the shit I had to deal with when I first got back. Just that alone. So there's my rant for this morning. At what point, people, does the narrative of being a fraud in the VA end for me? When does it end? When does at what point does it start where the policy and procedures start to help me instead of trying to hurt me? At what point does does someone say this is out of control? I cannot believe that because you're a combat veteran that no one has taken into account your story, for one. Two, that yes, you did, it was a little bit confusing in the beginning, but you know, we're smart enough to handle all this. At what point does it begin? I just got through writing Kirsten Cinema, and now every time I write them, it just sends me back a general statement saying, yes, thanks for contact. They won't allow me now to send them more mail. They put me on this block sort of thing. Can you believe it? So I need I definitely need an overhaul on somebody to take my case. There's the story, folks, right there. Don't worry about how, you know, was it a heroic, did you jump out of the building and land and you killed everybody like Rambo? And then don't worry about that. Okay, I was sustained 2 injuries overseas during combat missions. I want fucking more do I need to say that? Okay, three, hand, head twice and back at the same time as the head. And I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted of explaining to somebody because there's no point of it starting for me where some policy procedure and people are going to say this, hold on. How did this soldier get through with all these years without not getting addressed this situation? I had fucking moronic doctors like Dr. Herschel denying me because of the narrative being pushed along saying, we're not going to give you a TBI evaluation, not even an evaluation. Why do they keep sending me to you? That's what he tells me. So, oh, I got so I put this on for record so that way, you know, if I pass away, look, check this out. This guy's been complaining about it, but that's how it'll work, right? You'll be like, oh, you know, this soldier was complaining, you know, not a big deal. It's having some motor function things. He was losing motor function, you know, of his body parts, and it's starting to go into his organs a little bit because he got pancreatitis. I got a bunch of shit I could talk about, people. A bunch of shit, right? And it all leads to medical neglect. How can it not be medical neglect? You explain to me. Well, unless they did it purposely. Uh, can I please have somebody contact me that's not a fucking moron, okay, and say, look, Republican, Democrat, who are they? I want to get a hold of them. I want to see who's going to follow through with my situation. I want to give them my case and say, this is the root of my cause of my problem. What's going on here? How can you help me? I want to see how long it takes, how many seconds it takes for them to dismiss my situation and say, oh, we're going to have to send you to so and so. He deals with, I'm getting pushed around, people. I'm not getting pushed around no more. Not. Okay. So there it is. Thanks for listening. Thanks for all the stuff, and we'll continue again tomorrow.